How to Rebuild Yourself When Life Breaks You Down. Written and published by Stoic Ranger. Introduction. Have you ever felt like the weight of the world pressed down on your chest so hard that every breath felt like a battle? You're not alone. When life breaks you down, when dreams shatter, relationships crumble, and hope seems like a distant memory, it can feel impossible to rise again. But within every shattered piece of your heart lies the seed of your next beginning. You see, rebuilding yourself isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone you've never been, someone forged by the fire, someone refined by pain, someone who rises not in spite of their scars, but because of them. Life has a strange way of breaking us open, just to show us what we're really made of. And even though it hurts, even though you may not see it now, this breaking might just be the invitation you needed to wake up, to grow, and to begin again on stronger ground. This isn't a motivational speech. This is a blueprint, a raw, honest, soul-deep guide to help you walk through the wreckage of your old life and build something real, something lasting, something unshakable. So if you're ready to stop surviving and start rebuilding, brick by brick, breath by breath, then take a deep breath. Chapter 1. The Foundation of Acceptance. Embracing your broken pieces. You can't build a masterpiece on sand, because sand shifts, crumbles, and cannot hold the weight of anything lasting. In the same way, you cannot rebuild your life on denial, bitterness, or illusions. The first real step to rebuilding yourself is not action, it's acceptance. Acceptance means coming face to face with what has happened to you, without running from it, hiding it, or pretending that you're fine when you're not. When life breaks you down, it often leaves you feeling confused, angry, or ashamed. You might think, "Why me?" Or, "This isn't fair." You may try to escape those feelings by distracting yourself, blaming others, or putting on a fake smile just to get through the day. But inside, the pain remains sand. That pain will continue to echo in your life until it is acknowledged. That's where acceptance begins. It's not about giving up or saying that what happened was okay. It's about saying, "This is what I've been through. This is how it hurt me, and I will not hide from it anymore." Acceptance is not weakness. It's one of the strongest and most honest things you can do. It's like finally stopping in the middle of a storm, planting your feet in the mud and saying, "I will no longer pretend this storm isn't real. I will stand here. I will feel the wind, and I will figure out how to survive it." You stop using your energy to resist the pain, and you start using it to understand it. And in that moment, your healing begins. Think of a cracked vase. If you keep denying the cracks, the vase will continue to leak. But if you look at it carefully and gently trace every break with understanding, you can begin to repair it. You may even make it more beautiful than before. Just like the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold, your brokenness can become part of your strength if you're willing to face it. This chapter is about meeting yourself where you are, without judgment. If you're hurting, acknowledge it. If you're grieving, give yourself permission to grieve. If you feel lost, stop pretending that you know the way. Sit with those feelings. Let yourself be human, because pretending to be okay only delays your healing. When you stop saying, "This shouldn't have happened," and instead say, "This did happen, and I'm still standing," you begin to reclaim your power. And that is the moment a new version of you starts to rise, not in denial, not in resistance, but in truth. In this honest acceptance, you lay the first brick, the foundation of your rebuild. And this foundation is solid, not because it's free of pain, but because it's real. It holds your story, your strength, your scars, and your soul all together. And from here, anything is possible. Chapter 2. Clearing the rubble. Letting go of what holds you back. Imagine trying to build a brand new home on the site of one that's just collapsed. The first thing you'd need to do is clear away the broken wood, shattered glass, and tangled wires. You wouldn't try to decorate over the ruins, you'd remove them piece by piece. The same applies to rebuilding yourself. Before you can step into a new version of you, you must first clear away everything that's holding you down. That includes toxic people, painful memories, self-doubt, regrets, and the heavy beliefs that whisper, "You're not good enough." This is one of the hardest parts of rebuilding, because what you need to let go of is often what you've grown attached to. It could be a friendship that once made you feel seen, but now drains your energy. It could be a dream you chased for years, only to find that it no longer fits who you've become. Or it might be a version of yourself you clung to, the always strong one, the always smiling one, the always giving one, even when it hurt. Letting go can feel like another kind of loss, but it is actually an act of self-respect. You are saying, "I deserve to grow, I deserve to breathe, I deserve to be free of what no longer serves me." And that freedom doesn't come all at once, it comes in moments. It comes when you unfollow someone who always made you feel less, when you stop replaying an old conversation in your head, when you forgive not because they apologized, but because you no longer want to carry their weight on your back. It also means letting go of your own past mistakes. So many people live trapped by their own guilt. They say, "I should have known better," or "I ruined everything." But carrying that blame keeps you stuck in the same emotional loop. You can't rebuild yourself while punishing yourself. You must learn to say, "Yes, I made mistakes, but I'm still worthy of healing. I'm still allowed to grow." Sometimes, letting go feels like standing at the edge of a cliff and trusting that the ground will rise to meet you. It's scary, but it's necessary. The people who were meant to stay in your life will stay. The opportunities that are truly for you will return. But first, you must make space for them, because if your hands are full of pain, you won't be able to catch the blessings Allah is trying to send your way. Clearing the rubble is not about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing not to carry it into your future. You're not meant to be buried beneath old memories and broken plans. You're meant to rise above them. With every piece you release, you make more room for light, more room for healing, more room for the person you are becoming. So let go not because it's easy, but because your future depends on it. And as you clear that space within your heart, remember, you're not losing anything essential. You're simply making room for something greater. Chapter 3. Rediscovering your core. Reconnecting with your true self. When life breaks you down, it doesn't just leave wounds on the outside, it makes you forget who you are on the inside. You start living in survival mode. You put on a brave face, you say what people expect you to say, you do what feels safe, but all the while, you feel disconnected from your own soul. That's because trauma, heartbreak, failure, they don't just hurt, they blur. They blur your sense of self. You start asking, "Who am I now?" And that question, though painful, is the gateway to something powerful: rediscovery. Rebuilding yourself is not just about becoming someone new, it's about remembering someone real, the you beneath the layers of fear, rejection, pressure, and performance. The you that existed before the world told you what was acceptable, before life forced you to shrink, hide, or play a role to be loved. So, how do you find that version of yourself again? You begin by listening not to the noise around you, but to the quiet voice inside you. You start by asking deep, honest questions. What do I truly love doing, not for money, not for validation, but because it makes me feel alive? When do I feel most at peace? What kind of people light up my soul? What kind of environment makes me feel safe to be myself? And just as importantly, what drains me? What do I do just to please others? Who do I become when I'm scared of not being accepted? This is the work of rediscovery. It's not always loud or glamorous. Sometimes it means sitting in silence. Sometimes it means revisiting childhood dreams, remembering the version of you that used to dance in your room, draw on the walls, write poems no one else saw. That version of you still lives inside, quietly waiting for your return. You also rediscover yourself through solitude, not loneliness solitude, time away from constant distraction, away from performing for the world. Maybe it's a walk in nature, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's turning your phone off for a weekend and just being with your thoughts. In that stillness, your soul begins to speak again. You might be surprised by what you find. Maybe you're softer than you thought. Maybe you're more creative, more spiritual, more curious, more powerful. Maybe your true self is nothing like the mask you've been wearing. And that's okay. That's beautiful. Reconnecting with your true self also means honoring your values. What do you truly stand for, even when no one's watching? Is it honesty, loyalty, faith, growth? Once you know your values, you stop chasing the wrong things. You stop saying yes to people and opportunities that don't align with your truth. And that shift creates a life that feels less like a performance and more like home. This chapter is about making your internal world louder than the external one. The world will always try to define you by your past, your failures, your titles, your looks. But you are not any of those things. You are your heart, your truth, your light. And when you reconnect with that light, you begin to rebuild, not from emptiness, but from wholeness. Because the strongest rebuild doesn't come from becoming someone else. It comes from returning to who you were always meant to be. Chapter 4. Crafting your vision, designing the blueprint for your new life. Once you've cleared the rubble of your past and rediscovered the core of who you truly are, you stand at a powerful crossroads, a place of possibility. This is the moment when you no longer define yourself by what broke you. Instead, you begin to ask, what am I building now? Who do I want to become? But here's the truth, most people never tell you. Your new life won't arrive by accident. It must be designed, thoughtfully, intentionally, lovingly. Like an architect laying down the first sketch of a beautiful home, you must create a blueprint for your rebirth own that honors where you've been, reflects who you truly are, and points clearly toward where you want to go. This vision isn't about fantasy, it's about alignment. It's about creating a life that matches the truth of your soul, not the expectations of others. And to do that, you have to see it first. So take a moment to imagine, what does your ideal day look like? Not the day where you pretend to be okay, but the day where you feel deeply at peace. What kind of work do you do not for applause, but because it feels meaningful? How do you treat your body, your mind, your spirit? Who do you spend time with? And how do those relationships feel safe, nourishing, authentic? Don't rush this process. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, see it, feel it, smell it. The more vivid your vision becomes, the more real it becomes in your mind. And what your mind believes, your life starts to follow. Now write it down, not in vague goals like be successful or be happy, but in detail. Say, I wake up each day feeling grateful. I live in a space that feels calm and filled with light. I move my body with care. I speak kindly to myself. I surround myself with people who honor my boundaries. I do work that helps others. I have a peaceful relationship with time. I am in no rush. I am present. This becomes your inner compass, a map you can return to when the world feels noisy again, because without a vision, it's easy to drift, to fall back into habits that numb you, to say yes to things that don't serve you, to confuse activity with progress. But with a clear vision, you begin to walk with intention. You no longer run from your pain, you run toward your purpose. And remember, your vision doesn't have to impress anyone. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. For some, it may be a quiet life in nature. For others, it may be creating art, building a business, or raising a family. There is no wrong dream, only the one that speaks honestly to your heart. And don't be afraid to dream bigger than you've ever allowed yourself to before. Often, we limit our vision because of past pain. We think, I failed before, so I better keep it small this time. But your past pain is not a forecast for your future. It's your training. It made you wiser, stronger, clearer. And now, you get to build from that wisdom. Also, don't worry if the full vision isn't clear right away. Start with what you do know, the next right step, the habits you want to change, the feelings you want to experience, the energy you want to carry. Over time, your vision will sharpen like a lens being adjusted to focus. And once you have it, protect it. Speak it out loud. Write it on your wall. Pray over it. Remind yourself of it when life gets hard again, because it will. Challenges will still come. Old thoughts may try to creep in, but your vision will be the lighthouse that guides you through the storms. This chapter is about stepping into your power as the creator of your life, not the victim of your past. You are not just surviving anymore, you are building, and the blueprint is yours to design. So draw it with boldness, sketch it with faith, and know that you are capable of building a life that not only looks good on the outside, but feels like truth on the inside. Chapter 5. Rebuilding brick by brick, taking consistent, small actions. Now that you've accepted your pain, cleared the ruins, reconnected with who you are, and envisioned the life you want, it's time to build. This is where transformation becomes visible. Not in giant, dramatic changes, but in the quiet, repetitive, daily steps that no one sees. This is the part where many people give up, not because they're weak, but because they expect the journey to feel fast, exciting, and always rewarding. But real rebuilding, it's slow, it's steady, it's brick by brick. You have to understand that healing and growth don't come in one big moment of clarity. They come in 1,000 small decisions made when no one's watching. They come when you choose to get up and try again after a setback. When you drink water instead of numbing your pain with bad habits. When you open a book instead of scrolling for hours. When you go for a walk instead of laying in bed consumed by anxiety. These small steps may not feel powerful at first, but over time, they shape the structure of your new self. Think of it like building a house. You don't start with the roof, you start with a single brick, and then another, and another. Each brick on its own might look unimpressive, but together they form something solid, something that can withstand storms. The same is true for your life. Every day, you're laying down bricks. In how you speak to yourself, how you spend your time, how you treat your body, how you respond to fear. The question is, are you building a fortress of strength, or are you reinforcing the ruins of the past? This stage of rebuilding requires discipline, but not the harsh kind that beats you down, the kind that honors your future self, the kind that says, I know what I want, and I'm willing to do the small, boring, necessary things to get there. And here's the truth. You won't always feel motivated. That's why you must rely on commitment, not emotion. Motivation comes and goes, but commitment, that's what keeps you laying bricks even on the days when it's raining, when you're tired, when your mind whispers, what's the point? And yes, some days you will fall short. You'll break the promise you made to yourself. You'll mess up. That's not failure, that's humanity. Don't let a bad day turn into a bad week, or a bad week into a full relapse. Forgive yourself, learn from it, and return to your bricks, because progress is never a straight line, it's a spiral. You return to the same lessons, but each time with more wisdom, more strength, more clarity. Also, be mindful of what you're feeding your mind during this stage. What you consume becomes part of your internal architecture. If you surround yourself with negativity, toxic people, constant noise, you're laying bricks made of doubt and fear. But if you fill your space with uplifting words, truthful content, nourishing silence, prayer, nature, and genuine support, you're laying bricks of peace and strength. Don't underestimate the power of one small, repeated action. If you write 1 page every day, you'll have a book in a year. If you save a little money every week, you'll have a safety net in time. If you speak kindly to yourself each morning, you'll start to believe in your worth. These little habits, done consistently, rewire your brain, reshape your identity, and rebuild your life from the inside out. This is also the stage where people around you might not understand what you're doing. They won't see the blueprint you've created. They might even mock your efforts or wonder why you're changing. That's okay. They don't need to understand your rebuild. It's not their house. It's yours. Build it anyway. Track your progress not by perfection, but by direction. Are you moving forward? Even if it's slow, then you're doing better than you think. Take time to look back every few weeks and recognize how far you've come. Maybe your thoughts are a little kinder. Maybe you don't cry every night anymore. Maybe you finally feel a flicker of hope in the morning. That is progress. That is a brick laid. That is a miracle in motion. And finally, remember, this stage isn't about reaching some finish line where everything is perfect. There is no perfect. There is only you getting stronger, clearer, and more aligned with your true self, one day at a time. The journey of rebuilding is not about becoming someone different. It's about becoming whole. And every small, loving, honest action you take is a declaration to the world. I am not done. I am rebuilding, and I will rise brick by brick. Chapter 6. Strengthening with resilience. Turning setbacks into comebacks. There will come a moment in your journey of rebuilding when everything feels like it's falling apart again. You'll be doing everything right, waking up early, taking care of your mind and body, cutting off toxic influences, walking slowly but surely toward the life you envisioned, and then suddenly it hits you. A setback, a wave of sadness, a failure, a disappointment, a voice in your head that says, "See, nothing has really changed." This is where many people abandon their healing. They believe that because pain has returned, their progress has been erased. But that belief is a lie. Setbacks are not signs that you're broken again. They are signs that you're being tested not to destroy you, but to prepare you for the strength you say you want. This is the fire that forges your resilience. Resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's not about never falling down. It's about learning how to fall and how to get back up with more wisdom each time. Think of a tree in a storm. The wind doesn't break it because its roots are deep. It sways, it bends, sometimes it even loses branches, but it doesn't fall. That's resilience, and it is not born in calm weather. It is born in the storm. So how do you build that kind of resilience? You start by changing your relationship with failure. Instead of seeing it as a dead end, see it as data. Every time something doesn't work out, every habit that slips, every promise you break to yourself, every unexpected pain that knocks on your door, you ask, what is this teaching me? What do I need to adjust, not abandon? That simple question shifts your mindset from self-blame to self-inquiry, and that's where growth lives. You also build resilience by honoring your past pain, not ignoring it, not romanticizing it, but letting it strengthen you. Every time you survived something you thought would break you, you gained a layer of inner armor. Maybe you didn't notice it, maybe no one celebrated it, but that strength is real. It's inside you right now. You've made it through long nights, heartbreaks, betrayals, anxiety attacks, failures, loneliness, and confusion. And still you're here. That's not weakness. That's proof of your power. Another key to resilience is flexibility. Many people believe strength means rigidity, sticking to one plan, one dream, one way of doing things. But real strength is adaptive. When the road is blocked, resilience says, "I'll find another way." When people walk away, resilience says, "I still have myself." When your plans collapse, resilience whispers, "You can build new ones." This mindset transforms setbacks into springboards. It doesn't mean you ignore the pain, it means you rise with it. Let me be clear. Being resilient doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you numb out or pretend you're fine. It means you feel everything deeply and still choose to move forward with intention. You allow yourself to cry, to rest, to grieve, but you don't unpack and live there. You take your time, you breathe, and then you take the next small step. You also grow resilient by refusing to define yourself by your worst moments. Too many people wear their trauma like a name tag. They say, "I'm broken," or "I'm a failure," or "I'm not like other people." But you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become despite it. Yes, your past shaped you, but it does not limit you. In fact, it gives you something precious, a deeper understanding of pain, empathy, and the quiet strength that can never be taken from you. And perhaps most importantly, resilience is built through faith. Faith that the storm will pass, faith that your efforts are not wasted, faith that Allah sees your struggle, hears every silent prayer, and has written something beautiful for you, even if you can't see it yet. Faith is what holds you steady when everything around you feels uncertain. And the more you feed that faith through prayer, reflection, service, gratitude, the stronger your resilience becomes. You're not rebuilding just for the good days. You're rebuilding for the hard days, so that next time life tries to break you, you bend, but you don't shatter. You may slow down, but you don't stop. Because now, your strength is not built on motivation or applause. It's built on something much deeper, self-trust. The belief that no matter what comes, you'll figure it out. You'll face it. You'll rise again. This chapter isn't about avoiding setbacks, it's about rising with them, turning them into stepping stones, letting them sharpen your clarity, strengthen your will, and deepen your compassion. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to keep building, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when no one claps for you. Because every comeback starts in silence. And right now, in this quiet, inner work, you're writing the most powerful comeback of your life. Chapter 7. Celebrating your growth. Acknowledging every victory. We live in a world that rarely pauses. It tells us to keep going, keep hustling, keep proving, keep chasing the next thing. But rebuilding yourself isn't just about progress, it's also about pausing. It's about turning around every now and then, looking at the distance you've covered, and saying, "I made it through that." You may not be at the finish line yet. You may still have battles ahead. But if you never stop to acknowledge how far you've come, you'll start believing that you haven't moved at all. That's why this final chapter, celebrating your growth, is just as important as any step in the rebuilding journey. Because healing is not just about surviving, it's about witnessing yourself. It's about honoring the moments when you chose peace over chaos, when you held your tongue instead of lashing out, when you showed up for yourself on the days it would have been easier to stay in bed. These victories might seem small, but they are not. They are everything. Think of a tree that grows slowly, day by day. You don't see the progress every morning, but over time it reaches toward the sky. That's you. You've been healing, changing, stretching in silence. And if you don't celebrate those roots and branches forming, you'll lose sight of your own evolution. You'll keep thinking you're stuck, when in reality, you've been rising all along. So how do you begin to celebrate your growth? Start with presence. Just pause for a moment and reflect on where you were 6 months ago, or even 6 weeks ago. What thoughts consumed you then? What habits controlled you? What pain felt endless? Now look at yourself today. Maybe you've started speaking kinder words to yourself. Maybe you've let go of a toxic relationship. Maybe you've created boundaries where there used to be none. That's growth. That's proof of movement. That's a version of you you should be proud of. You can also track your wins, write them down in a journal, even the tiniest ones. Did you say no when you usually say yes? Did you drink more water today? Did you choose prayer or reflection instead of spiraling in your thoughts? Did you speak your truth, even if your voice shook? Write that down. These are your soul's victories. These are the bricks that made your foundation stronger. They deserve to be remembered. And don't wait for someone else to notice your progress. Don't wait for applause. Often, the most powerful parts of your healing will be invisible to others, but deeply transformative for you. You might be rebuilding the way you think, the way you react, the way you show up in relationships. That kind of growth isn't flashy, it doesn't trend, but it's real, and it deserves your recognition. You also celebrate by practicing gentle gratitude, not the fake kind that says, everything's perfect, but the sacred kind that says, even in my struggle, I am thankful for what I've learned. I'm thankful that I kept going. Gratitude turns your healing journey into something holy. It shifts your focus from what's still missing to what has already bloomed. It teaches you that you don't have to be completely healed to be deeply grateful. Celebration isn't just an emotional thing, it rewires your brain. When you acknowledge your progress, your brain starts associating growth with reward. It says, this feels good, let's keep going. That's why recognizing your wins isn't selfish, it's strategic. It motivates you to keep laying the bricks, even when it's hard. And don't forget to celebrate the internal changes, the shifts no one else sees. Like the day you felt anxiety coming but chose to breathe through it instead of shutting down. The day you stopped chasing someone who couldn't see your worth. The day you felt anger rise and softened into silence instead of starting a war. These quiet wins build strength deeper than muscles. They shape character. They create peace. You can also celebrate by doing something kind for yourself. Take yourself on a walk. Buy that book you've been wanting. Cook your favorite meal. Sit under the stars. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be intentional. A moment that says, you've done well, keep going. And yes, there may still be more mountains to climb, but don't let that stop you from honoring the hills you've already crossed. The fact that you didn't give up is a celebration. The fact that you're still showing up for your life, despite everything, is a celebration. The fact that you're healing, slowly, quietly, in your own way that is sacred. Let this chapter be a mirror. Look into it and see how far you've come. See the scars that have turned into wisdom. See the moments of silence that turned into strength. See the nights you cried and the mornings you still rose. You are not who you used to be. You are becoming someone new, someone who knows their worth, honors their growth, and walks with grace even when the path is unclear. So, celebrateno just with words, but with how you carry yourself. Stand taller, speak softer to your soul, walk slower, smile more, even if just for a moment. Because your rebuild is not complete, but it is beautifully underway, and every step you've taken has been a victory worth celebrating. You didn't just survive, you evolved, and that deserves more than silence. It deserves your full attention, your deepest gratitude, and your proudest smile. Chapter 8. Living as the new you, becoming the person you were meant to be. There comes a time in every rebuilding journey where the dust begins to settle, the wounds begin to close, and the echoes of old pain start to fade into the background. You no longer wake up with that heavy ache in your chest. You no longer spend your days looking back, wondering what went wrong or who should have stayed. The storm that once defined you has passed. And now, standing at the threshold of a new chapter, you're faced with a powerful question. What does it mean to live as the new you? You see, rebuilding isn't just about healing from the past, it's about stepping fully into the future, into a new identity, into a way of being that reflects your growth, your lessons, and your truth. But many people reach this stage and freeze. They've done the inner work. They've survived the storm. But they hesitate to own their transformation. They still see themselves through the lens of who they were, not who they've become. That hesitation is normal. After all, the old version of you was familiar, predictable. Even if it was filled with pain, it was a kind of pain you knew how to carry. But the new you, the one that stands tall, that believes in their worth, that walks with purpose, that version can feel foreign, even intimidating. You may ask, am I really this person now? Can I really live like this? Yes, you can. And more than that, you must. Living as the new you means no longer apologizing for how far you've come. It means no longer shrinking back into old patterns just to make others comfortable. It means embodying your growth in every action, every choice, every word. You've earned the right to take up space as this healed, evolving version of yourself. This starts with how you treat yourself. Begin each day with the awareness that you are no longer operating from survival. You are building a life from intention. Speak to yourself like someone who has endured and emerged wiser. You are not broken anymore. You are reborn. So stop criticizing yourself for how long it took, or for the days you still struggle. Healing isn't a race. Becoming takes time, and you're already living proof of transformation. Now, your actions must begin to align with your new identity. The boundaries you once struggled to set, they're non-negotiable now. The self-care you used to skip, it's sacred now. The people who never saw your worth, they don't get access anymore. Living as the new you means your standards risen not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You no longer settle for relationships that drain you, environments that limit you, or goals that don't align with your soul. You also begin to lead with clarity. You know your values now. You've walked through the fire and discovered what truly matters, so your life becomes simpler, more focused. You stop chasing everything, and instead, you move with purpose. You spend time with people who feel like peace. You work on things that bring meaning. You rest when you need to, not when you crash. You are no longer trying to prove anything. You are simply living your truth. But living as the new, you also means embracing vulnerability. Because growth doesn't mean you'll never struggle again. It means you now have the strength to face life without losing yourself. There will still be days when you feel unsure, when old fears whisper in your ear. But now, you don't obey those voices. You hear them, you acknowledge them, and then you choose differently. That is the essence of transformation, not perfection, but conscious choice. And be prepared. Not everyone will celebrate this new you. Some will miss the old version of you, the one who overgave, who stayed silent, who accepted less. They may try to guilt you, question you, or distance themselves. Let them go. Your new life can't grow in old soil. This chapter of your life is not about pleasing others, it's about living in alignment with your soul. You also begin to share your light, not in a way that demands attention, but in a way that inspires quietly. Maybe your story encourages someone else to begin their own healing. Maybe your strength becomes a mirror for someone else's courage. When you live as your true self, you give others permission to do the same. You become a living example of what it means to rebuild, not by avoiding pain, but by walking through it with faith and fire. Living as the new you also means celebrating your joy without guilt. Too often, we feel hesitant to be happy, especially after pain, as if joy is unearned, as if we must always carry the weight of what we've been through. But joy is not betrayal. It's proof that healing is real. It's a declaration that life didn't defeat you. So dance, laugh, dream again. You're allowed. You deserve it. And lastly, honor the sacredness of your journey. You didn't just move on, you rebuilt. You pieced yourself back together with trembling hands and relentless hope. You fought through confusion, sorrow, loneliness, and fear, and still chose to believe in something better. That deserves reverence. That deserves to be lived fully. This chapter is about ownership. Owning your healing, owning your story, owning your worth. You are no longer who you used to be. You are not defined by the chapter where you were broken. You are defined by the chapter you wrote afterward, the one where you rose, reimagined your life, and chose to live it with intention, love, and courage. So walk as the new you, not with fear, but with quiet confidence, not with apology, but with purpose. Because you've done the hardest part now, it's time to live it. Chapter 9. Protecting your peace, guarding what you've rebuilt. You've come a long way, from brokenness to awareness, from loss to clarity, from self-doubt to inner strength. You've walked through pain that could have crushed you, but it didn't. You endured storms that could have made you bitter, but you chose growth. You've rebuilt yourself, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And now, you carry something sacred, your peace. But here's a truth that too many people learn too late. Once you've rebuilt your peace, you must learn to protect it like treasure. Because peace is not a one-time event. It's not something you stumble into once and then get to keep forever. It's a space you have to guard, moment by moment, decision by decision, day by day. And the stronger your peace becomes, the more the world will test it. Old people, old patterns, old temptations, they often come back not to destroy you, but to ask one question: have you really changed? Protecting your peace begins with discernment. You must become fiercely selective about who and what you allow into your inner world. Every conversation, every relationship, every piece of content you consume either feeds your peace or starves it. It either builds your energy or drains it. And now that you've worked so hard to heal, you don't have the luxury of allowing chaos back in just because it's familiar. You're no longer the version of yourself who could afford to tolerate what breaks your spirit. You're no longer the person who says yes to things that feel like a no deep in your gut. And that's not selfish. That's self-respect. You are not required to explain, justify, or shrink to make others comfortable with your boundaries. Your peace doesn't need permission to exist. Protecting your peace means saying no without guilt. It means canceling plans that feel heavy, ending conversations that lead nowhere, walking away from people who disturb your spirit. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to choose your well-being first. You begin to realize that your energy is sacred. You stop wasting it on people who only show up when they need something. You stop giving your time to places that leave you feeling empty. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It also means watching your own mind. Sometimes the biggest threat to your peace isn't outside, it's within. It's your thoughts, the stories you tell yourself, the memories you replay, the fear you feed. That's why part of protecting your peace is daily inner work. You wake up and check in with your thoughts. You ask yourself, is this belief serving me, or is it a leftover from a version of me that I've outgrown? You learn to interrupt negative spirals, to pause before reacting, to breathe instead of breaking down. You become your own protector, your own guardian. Another way you protect your peace is by creating rituals that restore you. Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's walking in nature, turning off your phone, or drinking tea in silence. These may seem small, but they are acts of preservation. They are how you return to yourself when the world tries to pull you in every direction. They are how you remind your soul, you are safe now, you are home. You also protect your peace by managing your expectations. One of the greatest thieves of peace is the belief that life should always go according to plan, that people should treat you how you treat them, that things should unfold without resistance. But the more you accept that life is messy, unpredictable, and full of mystery, the less you suffer. You stop fighting what is. You stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. And in that surrender, peace flows in. Forgiveness, too, is a powerful protector, not just forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. You're going to make mistakes, even after all this growth. You're going to fall into old thoughts, old behaviors, old wounds. But don't punish yourself. Don't turn your peace into a battleground. Be gentle, be compassionate. Remind yourself, I am learning. I am not who I was. I am still rising. That softness is strength. That grace is armor. And finally, protecting your peace means honoring the quiet. In a world that celebrates noise, busyness, and visibility, choose stillness. Choose depth. Choose the slow life, if that's what brings you closer to your truth. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to constantly perform to be valuable. Real peace isn't always seen, but it is always felt. And it becomes the compass that guides every step you take. Let this chapter be your reminder. Your peace is not a bonus, it's the foundation. It's not extra, it's essential. Without it, everything else falls apart. So, guard it. Protect it like the sacred thing it is. And know that protecting your peace isn't about building walls, it's about building wisdom. It's not about isolation, it's about intention. You've worked too hard to heal, to let the noise of the world steal the quiet you've earned. Protect your peace, honor your progress, and walk forward, not with fear but with calm, clear, grounded power. This is your new life, and peace is your new home. Chapter 10. Becoming the lighthouse, helping others rise while standing in your light. There's a moment in every deep healing journey when something profound happens. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin wondering, how can what I've survived help someone else? This shift doesn't mean you've forgotten your pain. It means you've transformed it. You've taken the shattered pieces of your past and shaped them into a message, a presence, a light. And now you become what the world so desperately needs, a lighthouse. What is a lighthouse? It doesn't chase ships, it doesn't scream, it doesn't move from place to place trying to save everyone. It simply stands tall, grounded, radiant, shining its light consistently, calmly, through every storm. It offers guidance without force, safety without noise, and direction without pride. And that's exactly what your life becomes when you've rebuilt yourself from truth and pain. You become a silent guide for those still lost in the dark. You don't have to become a motivational speaker. You don't need to start a podcast or write a book unless your heart tells you to. Sometimes, becoming a lighthouse means being the one friend who listens without judgment, the sibling who shows empathy instead of anger, the parent who breaks the generational cycle, the stranger who smiles at someone who seems invisible, the person who simply lives with integrity, showing others what it means to rise from the ruins. But here's the deeper truth. Before you can be a light to others, you must continue to nurture your own flame. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. You cannot guide others through storms if you haven't anchored yourself first. Becoming a lighthouse is not about being perfect, it's about being rooted. rooted in your truth, rooted in your values, rooted in your peace. And people will feel that. Not because you shout your journey from rooftops, but because your energy speaks. Your calm presence, your quiet strength, your ability to remain grounded when others are crumbling, that is the real testimony. That is what people remember. And sometimes, just seeing that it's possible is enough to help someone else believe in their own healing. But becoming a lighthouse is not without challenge. The more grounded you become, the more you'll notice others projecting their chaos onto you. Some will be drawn to your light, not to grow but to drain. Some will expect you to carry them instead of learning to walk. Others may become uncomfortable around your peace because it reflects everything they're avoiding in themselves. This is where you must practice compassionate boundaries. You are not responsible for healing the world. You are responsible for staying lit, for continuing to protect your own energy, to say no when needed, to offer guidance without enabling, to serve without self-sacrifice. A lighthouse cannot help anyone if its own light burns out. And part of staying lit is continuing your own growth. Your journey didn't end when you rebuilt yourself, it just entered a new phase. You now walk with deeper purpose, higher standards, and a clearer soul. But growth never stops. You'll still meet new layers of yourself, new challenges, new lessons. Stay humble enough to learn. Stay curious enough to keep asking questions. Stay grounded enough to know that your light is not the destination, it's the path. This chapter also invites you to turn your wounds into wisdom, not shame. The world is full of people hiding behind smiles, pretending to be okay, craving someone who understands. You've been there. You know that darkness. So when someone else comes to you broken, afraid, confused, don't try to fix them. Just be there. Just listen. Just let your presence be the proof that pain is not the end. You become a quiet source of strength. Not because you have all the answers, but because you have the scars to prove that healing is possible. Your life becomes your message. Your peace becomes your teaching. Your calm becomes your offering. And you never know who's watching. Sometimes your courage will inspire someone you've never met. Sometimes your simple act of kindness will be someone's turning point. That is how the light spreads silently, steadily, soul to soul. And don't wait until you feel finished to share that light. You don't need to be fully healed to help others. You just need to be authentic. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's connection. When you speak from your truth, others feel safe to speak from theirs. When you show your real self, others lower their masks. That's where real healing begins, not in pretending to have it all together, but in walking together with honesty, compassion, and faith. So live your truth loudly, even in silence. Carry your peace like a torch. Let your presence remind others that there is life after heartbreak. There is clarity after confusion. There is strength after suffering. You are the living evidence, and that is something sacred. Let this final chapter be your invitation to not only rebuild, but to radiate. You were never just meant to survive. You were meant to shine. Not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who carries the light of someone who has been through the dark and chose not to stay there. So stand tall, be still, shine without shame. You've rebuilt yourself, not just for your own healing, but so others might find their way home through you. You are the lighthouse now. Let your light lead. Chapter 11. The Return to Wholeness. Living a life that feels like home. There is a point, after the rebuilding, after the relapses and the relights, after the walls have been raised and the windows of the soul cleaned of dust, where something extraordinary begins to happen, not loud, not announced, but quiet and sacred. You no longer feel like you're fighting your way back to yourself. You are yourself. Your breath softens, your mind rests, and you begin to feel something you haven't felt in a long time: home. not in a place, not in a person, but in you. This chapter is not about climbing any higher or fixing anything more. It's about being. It's about returning not to the you that was broken, or even the you that survived, but the you that was always whole underneath it all. The you that existed before the expectations, before the trauma, before the world taught you to hide your light to feel safe, before you believed you had to earn your worth. Wholeness is not perfection. It's not about reaching a point where nothing ever hurts again. It's about reaching a place where even the hurt doesn't scare you anymore. You stop fearing your emotions. You stop running from discomfort. You stop looking for external validation to tell you who you are. You realize that everything you've been searching for, peace, love, purpose, meaning, was never out there. It was always buried inside you, waiting for you to come home. When you return to wholeness, your relationship with time shifts. You no longer race against it. You don't feel behind. You don't panic when others succeed before you, because you understand that your life is not a competition, it's a composition, and you are the composer, choosing each note with awareness. You live slower but deeper. You savor the morning silence. You notice the softness in a child's smile. You taste your food. You hear your breath. You become present in a way that feels holy. You also begin to trust yourself in a way you never did before. The self-doubt that once screamed in your head now speaks in whisper sound. Even when it does, you smile because you know it's just an old echo. You've built too much truth to be shaken by old lies. You've proven to yourself again and again that you can survive pain, you can rebuild, you can rise. That trust becomes the bedrock of your wholeness. And this wholeness changes the way you relate to others. You no longer seek relationships to complete you, but to complement you. You don't enter spaces to be seen, you enter, already knowing who you are. You love from abundance, not from emptiness. You stop chasing those who don't see your value, not out of pride but out of peace. You're not afraid to walk away from what doesn't align, because you've stopped fearing aloneness. Alone no longer means abandon it, means aligned. You also stop asking life to be easy. You just ask for it to be true. And when it gets hard, you don't see it as punishment, you see it as refinement, as an opportunity to deepen your roots, to widen your heart, to stretch into more of who you already are. Pain still visits you, but it doesn't define you. Fear still knocks, but it no longer enters. Doubt still lingers, but it never leads. This return to wholeness also brings a deep, unwavering compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. You look back on the broken versions of you not with judgment, but with softness. You see how hard they tried, how they survived on half a heart and sheer willpower, how they never gave up, even when every voice said it wasn't worth it. And you say, thank you. Thank you for getting me here. Thank you for not quitting. Thank you for being strong enough to be vulnerable. And when you live from wholeness, you no longer need to force your life into boxes that don't fit. You don't compare your path to anyone else's. You don't need a title to feel valuable or constant productivity to feel purposeful. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You're not building a life that looks impressive. You're building a life that feels like truth, one that reflects your values, your rhythms, your soul. You also begin to notice how much less you need. You simplify not to escape life, but to be more alive in it. You let go of the excess, the endless noise, the mindless scrolling, the constant chasing. Instead, you return to what nourishes: real connection, real rest, real meaning. You measure success not by money, followers, or fame, but by how soft your heart stays in a hard world, by how gently you speak to yourself, by how deeply you listen to others, by how freely you can laugh, even after everything. And perhaps most beautifully, wholeness gives birth to freedom. Not the kind the world sells you: cars, applause, control, but the kind your soul craves. The freedom to be misunderstood without explaining, to change your mind without shame, to start over at any age, to be deeply joyful without guilt, to dance even while you're healing, to rest even while others run, to know that your existence, your quiet, honest, evolving presence is enough. Let this chapter be the sacred exhale, the place where you stop running and realize you've arrived, not at a destination, but at yourself. You are not lost, you are not broken, you are not behind. You are whole, even when you wobble, even when you doubt, even when the tears still come. Wholeness doesn't mean you never fall, it means you always return. So sit with yourself, place your hand over your heart, feel it beating, not for anyone else, not for a goal, just for you, for this moment, for this life, for this peace. You're home now. Welcome back. Chapter 12. Becoming the creator of your life. Living with intention, purpose, and power. There comes a time after the storm has passed, after the rubble has been cleared, after you've remembered your name and gathered the light you lost when you realize something profound. You are not just a survivor of your story. You are the creator of what comes next. And that realization changes everything. This is not a chapter about surviving. You've done that. This is not a chapter about rebuilding. You've laid the bricks, piece by piece, with shaking hands and sacred effort. This chapter is about stepping into your divine creative power, the power to choose your direction, shape your reality, and align your life with the truth you've fought so hard to uncover. Because here's a truth. The world doesn't always teach you. You are not a passive character in the novel of your life. You are the author, and if you don't pick up the pen, someone else will. Society will script your decisions. Fear will edit your dreams. Old pain will direct your habits. And before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't even feel like yours. But not anymore. To become the creator of your life, you must first take radical ownership. That means no more waiting for permission, no more hoping someone will come along and tell you what to do. No more blaming the past for the power you hold now. It means saying, my healing is my responsibility, my choices are mine, my future begins with what I decide today. You may not control what happened to you, but you do control what happens through you. You are the artist now. Your mind is the canvas. Your habits are the brush. Your intentions are the colors. And your life is the masterpiece waiting to emerge. Start small. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of energy do I want to bring into a room? How do I want my days to feel, not just look, but feel? Now reverse engineer it. If you want peace, what choices lead to that? If you want depth in your relationships, how do you need to show up? If you want to live a life of meaning, what do you need to start saying yes to? And what do you need to start saying no to? Intentional living is not about perfection, it's about awareness. It's asking, before every decision, is this aligned with the life I'm creating? You no longer act from autopilot, you act from conscious design. You begin to understand that your time, your energy, your attention, they are currency, and you invest them only in things that grow your soul. To live as the creator of your life means building a rhythm that serves you. Maybe that means waking up early to write. Maybe it means working at night when your mind is most alive. Maybe it means building a career that aligns with your gifts, even if it takes longer. Maybe it means living slower, traveling lighter, listening deeper. You no longer measure success by external markers. You measure it by internal resonance, by how fully your life reflects your values. And don't be afraid if your life starts to look different from the people around you. It should, because it's yours. Creation is not replication. You weren't meant to follow a template, you were meant to innovate. You were meant to disrupt cycles, question old systems, and carve a path that feels like freedom. Yes, that may be lonely at times, but that solitude, it's holy. It's the space where your truest self finally has room to breathe. Living as the creator also means accepting responsibility for your mindset. Your thoughts create your emotional reality, and your emotions shape your actions. So if your thoughts are polluted by comparison, by fear, by old beliefs, then your life will feel heavy, no matter how many goals you reach. You must learn to curate your inner world as carefully as you do your outer one. Speak life into yourself. Speak possibilities. Speak purpose. Speak love. You are listening even when you're not conscious of it. So choose words that build, not break. Choose beliefs that lift, not limit. Every thought is either constructing your future or repeating your past. Be intentional. Be disciplined. You're not just building a lifestyle, you're building a legacy. Another powerful part of becoming the creator of your life is learning to embrace change. Creation is not static. You are not meant to be the same person forever. Allow yourself to evolve. Don't stay in environments that no longer match your energy. Don't cling to goals that no longer reflect your heart. Growth is not betrayal, it's honesty. Your soul will whisper when it's time to pivot. Listen. You're allowed to outgrow what you once prayed for. And remember, this power to create doesn't come from force, it comes from alignment. You don't need to hustle to prove your worth. You don't need to chase. When you are aligned, when your values, actions, and intentions are in sync, your life begins to flow. Opportunities arise. The right people appear. Synchronicities increase. That's not magic, it's the result of inner clarity. When you know who you are, life starts reflecting it back to you. But most of all, becoming the creator of your life means you no longer wait. You don't wait for the right time, the right motivation, the right person. You start now. You start with what you have. Where you are, who you are. You don't wait for confidence, you build it through action. You don't wait to feel worthy, you act like it until it becomes your truth. Creation begins with courage, and courage means doing it before you're ready. So ask yourself today, what life do I want to create? What version of me do I need to become to live it? What is one step I can take now, just to begin? Then do it. Because you are not just here to survive. You're not here to float through the days hoping for change. You are here to build, to lead, to live awake. You have been through the darkness. You've sat with your pain. You've met your shadow. And now it's time to create a life that feels like light. Let this chapter be your turning point. No more drifting, no more delay. From this moment forward, you are not a bystander in your own story. You are the author, the sculptor, the designer. And your masterpiece begins now. Chapter 13. The Silent Revolution. Becoming who you are without needing to prove it to anyone. There is a quiet power that rises in you after you've been broken, after you've cried your last desperate tears, after you've begged life to make sense and received silence in return. That silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, in that silence, something sacred begins. You start to shift, not on the outside, not in front of crowds, not for validation, but deep within. And that shift, though invisible, is what I call the silent revolution. This is the chapter where you stop performing, where you stop chasing applause, where you stop explaining your soul to people who never had the capacity to understand it. This is where you stop trying to convince anyone that you've changed, that you're worthy, that you're serious about your new life. Why? Because you finally realize you don't need to. When you rebuild yourself from the inside out, you begin to understand that true power doesn't make noise. It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't beg to be seen. True power is still. It is steady. It is self-contained. Like a mountain that stands unshaken no matter who walks by. Like a flame that burns even when no one is watching. You begin to carry yourself differently. Your confidence is not in your words, but in your presence. You don't announce your growth, you embody it. You don't correct every false perception, because you realize people will only see you from the level of their own awareness, and that's no longer your responsibility. This silent revolution changes how you move through life. You no longer enter a room wondering how you'll be received. You enter rooted in who you are, knowing that your energy speaks before you do. You no longer rush to defend your choices, you trust them. You no longer cling to people out of fear of being alone, because you honor your own company. You've come to understand that peace is not a crowd, it's a state of being. You also begin to live by inner standards, not outer pressure. You're no longer moved by what everyone else is doing. The noise of comparison fades. The urgency of timelines melts. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest with yourself, with your values, with your next small step. You are done performing. You are done pretending. You are done proving. This chapter also means reclaiming your time. When you're not trying to impress anyone, you stop wasting hours on meaningless scrolling, mindless consumption, shallow conversations. You begin to spend more time in solitude, more time in reflection, more time in creation. You become selective with your energy, because now you know not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves access. Silence is not a weakness, it is a boundary. But don't mistake this stillness for withdrawal. You are not hiding. You are rising, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. You're no longer seeking a seat at tables that require you to shrink. You're building your own. And if no one joins you, that's fine. Because your wholeness is not dependent on being understood, it's built on being true. And this truth begins to soften you. You don't need to be hard anymore. You don't need to wear emotional armor to feel safe. You don't need to argue to prove you're right. You don't need to dominate conversations to be heard. You speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. You move slower, but when you act, your steps are grounded. You give more, but only when it flows from a full heart. This revolution also makes you more loving, not because you're trying to earn anything, but because your heart is no longer tied in knots. You give freely, without agenda. You forgive more quickly, not because people deserve it, but because you do. You don't carry grudges like bricks in your pocket. You set them down, again and again. You're not trying to win anymore. You're trying to live free. And freedom, as it turns out, is the deepest success. Not money, not fame, not followers, not even love from others. The truest form of success is living in alignment with your values, your truth, your essence, whether anyone claps for you or not, whether anyone notices or not. Because you notice. You feel the difference. You sleep deeper. You walk lighter. You smile without effort. You begin to realize that peace isn't something you find at the end of the journey, it's something you practice throughout it. It's how you treat yourself in the in-between moments. It's how you hold yourself when no one is watching. It's how you carry your pain with dignity, not denial. It's how you honor your story not with shame, but with reverence. And it's how you respond when life tests you again, because it will. Life will shake the ground you stand on just to see if your roots hold. People will try to pull you back into your old self. Fear will whisper the same lies it always has. But now you smile. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you know who you are. You don't need to react. You don't need to prove. You've already won. You're not here to impress. You're here to express. You're not here to meet expectations. You're here to live in truth. And truth doesn't shout. It simply is. So let this chapter be your quiet revolution. Let it be the moment you stop explaining yourself to the world and start living like the world is no longer your judge. Walk in silence. Move with purpose. Choose depth over noise and peace over popularity. Let your life become your loudest statement and your calmest offering. You are not what you show. You are what you carry. And what you carry now is power. Not the kind that demands to be seen, but the kind that changes everything without making a sound. If you've made it here, through every chapter, every storm, every reflection, every quiet moment of truth, then understand this clearly. You didn't just rebuild yourself. You returned to yourself. You didn't rise from ruin as someone new. You remembered who you truly were beneath the noise, the pain, the past. This journey wasn't about fixing a broken person. It was about uncovering the wholeness that was buried beneath years of survival. It was about peeling back the layers that life forced you to wear until you could finally feel your own skin again. It was about standing in the ruins of who you used to be and whispering, "Even here I can grow." Yes, life broke you, but only to open the places in you that had been sealed too long. Only to shake loose the illusions, the masks, the stories that told you to be small. Only to lead you to a silence deep enough where you could finally hear your soul. You now carry a new kind of strength, not loud, not hardened, but sacred. You carry a peace that was earned, not given. You carry a voice that no longer begs to be heard because it knows its worth. You carry a heart that still chooses softness, even after being shattered. You no longer walk through life looking for yourself in other people. You no longer shrink to be liked or pretend to be whole just to feel accepted. You no longer trade your authenticity for approval. You now live in alignment with your truth, your vision, your divine design. Let no one make you forget the path you walked. Let no one guilt you for the peace you now protect. Let no one pull you back into the cage you had the courage to escape. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decided to become after it. So live loudly in your truth even if you do so quietly. Wake up each day not trying to prove yourself, but to honor yourself. Let your presence be a reflection of your journey. Let your life be a love letter to your own becoming. Because in the end, this was never about being perfect. It was about being real. And in your realness, in your softness, in your scars and your silence, you've become something unshakable. You are not rebuilding anymore. You are rising. And this time, not to impress, not to chase, not to survive, but to live fully. Welcome home to the you that was always waiting. The you that no longer needs permission. The you that remembers. You were never broken. You were becoming. And now you are.